you're not a leader by showing and telling people that you're a leader. You show by doing.
His dementia isn't as bad as we thought it was, just watching the debate. But he was just so uninspired and boring. He's like your made out of a factory politician.
Hi everyone. So this is episode one of the podcast with myself, well, Isaac and myself. And so we're going to be talking today about like Trump or the virus, and to give you a bit of like, the context that you've been living under a rock, basically. Trump has recently, so maybe from the day of recording, like maybe a week ago,
Yeah, pretty much.
around
A few days
around
ago,
a
a
week
week.
ago,
Yeah.
like 5 days ago, got the virus, and he's been sent to a hospital in Maryland, and then 3 days later he comes out in this dramatic performance, and you know, in front of the whole world, takes off his mask like some
Like a superhero.
like a superhero,
unveiling.
exactly like a superhero, and like shows the world that he's okay, and then calls it a blessing from God, and then this dude, well, I won't say this dude, President Trump, um,
This dude. Really
this
formal.
this dude, he literally comes out and he's like, "Oh, I'm good. The virus is not a problem. I've been giving the treatment that like every American should deserve, and it to me is just somewhat of like a scam to the American people. It shouldn't be this way, but it is, and I just feel like he is really downplaying the virus to an extent where I don't like it. What do you think about it?
I mean, this stuff is obviously it's really bad, as you've said, but it's also really funny, right? Because this guy who's been saying, "Oh, it's a hoax," or "It's not that contagious," he got it himself. So it's just beyond parody at this point.
I think it's genuinely gone to a point where it's like you deserve it. It's pretty much karma to me. Like you've been holding rallies in different states, and your supporters don't care about other people. You literally go up to other people, like you hold rallies in front of like thousands of people who reject the notion of wearing a mask, even though in that state they have a legislation to wear a mask, and you don't set a good example. I just feel like that's not a good president. That's not real leadership, as Republicans will call leadership. The Republicans have been calling Trump's defiant, or like Trump's act as like some sort of leadership. Going to like being confronting the people, being like, "Oh, I'm going to, lead even though I have corona, and show that I'm a president and a leader." But in actual fact, I don't think he actually is ever a leader. You're not a leader by showing and telling people that you're a leader. You show by doing.
I mean, to be fair though, just to pull back on the Trump bashing a little bit, I do admire his kind of New York style chutzpah. Like he's making a show of it, and that's what he is. Before he was ever president, he was reality TV star, right, on The Apprentice, and so although we from Hong Kong may say, "Oh, what he's doing is absolutely crazy," you do have to admire the absolute showmanship of it. Like he's putting on a brave face. He's doing pretty good. It's pretty good political theater.
It's like for me, I compare this to like when I don't know if you ever played Among Us before, but like when you play Among Us and then like you see an imposter, and the imposter clearly kills someone in front of you, and is like, "Oh, I'm not, I didn't kill anyone. I'm just a random human who randomly just stepped there and is like, I'm chill."
Is that like a card game?
No, it's not a card
What
game.
is
It's
that,
it's,
man?
it's a super.
Super niche.
You've been living
Niche
under a rock,
references.
mate. You've been living under a rock, mate. Among Us is an amazing game, honestly. I've been playing it so much, it's nuts. But just to make a general comparison, it's like someone's like killed someone in front of you, and then I'm pretty sure anyone who watches like plays Among Us will know what I'm talking about.
I doubt it.
I know you don't, but imagine like you literally kill someone in front of like you kill someone and in front of like a person, and then that person goes and reports you, and then you try to lie about it, and that's what Trump is doing, and I feel I just don't think that like Trump is being genuine at all. And by the way, I will say this, right, by watching the presidential debate, you can clearly tell like I clearly don't want to vote for like I can't vote, but I clearly don't support both of them. Like it's so difficult to support both of them. don't you think?
I mean, the debate was boring, wasn't it? It was boring. It was just two old people yammering over each other. It's like a family gathering. It's like a family gathering.
It's a shambolic performance. Like I genuinely think like look, you can see why people would support Trump, right? You know, the interruptions.
He's got personality though.
Exactly.
He's got style.
Well, the thing is, right, Trump's like personality in general appeases to a certain audience. And you can clearly tell like Biden with the way he kind of uses empathy as a way of showing like
he's boring. He's mainstream.
oh no, he's super mainstream. But the thing is like he's like, oh, imagine your kids and like all this stuff. And like don't you feel like what was it called? Like just think about your family and think about like how your family doesn't have enough money to pay rent because of the COVID crisis and all that stuff. And I was like, it's because of this man. And then he uses that towards his advantage, but he doesn't give any fucking policies. Sorry for the swearing.
No, it's fine. I mean, Biden. I mean, his dementia isn't as bad as we thought it was. Just watching the debate, but he was just so uninspired and boring. He's like your made out of a factory politician with a little bit of dementia. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I know.
He's a bit slow. He's a bit boring. He's a bit scripted. Whereas Trump, he just says whatever the fuck he wants, and that's quite refreshing, arguably. Although you can say he's a terrible president, but it's fun to watch.
Thing is, right, it's very like sided on like whether or not he's a good president or not. I think like for some people in Hong Kong, at least in Hong Kong, like domestically here, he's considered like a good like he's like a good.
He's really popular in Hong Kong.
Like
really
he's a popular figure in Hong Kong. Like
you talk to a normal kind of working class citizen on Hong Kong streets of Hong Kong. They'll support Trump. They'll support Trump. 100%.
Exactly because like they've supported like these legislations that have passed through the Senate and stuff. And even though Trump actually doesn't endorse that stuff.
No, he's actually against it.
Yeah, he's actually against it because the Senate is so for it.
And the Republican Party has been really quite excellent on kind of Hong Kong democracy and rights. And that's why normal people in Hong Kong, you say Trump's name, he's like, yeah, good president, strong, strong on China. And they really like that.
And yeah, exactly. And they really like that. But, the thing is, like, he cares so much about... My opinion on him is, like, he cares so much about other countries that he doesn't give a flying fuck about him, like his own. Right? It's gotten to that point where, like, if you think about America, it's gotten poorer. It's gotten... there's more, like, crime. There's more division between races. And that's a massive issue for me because... Like, I'm obviously someone who wants to work in America. Understanding that I have the ability to be, what's the word? The ability to be myself in an environment is super important. I don't want to just end up being like racially kind of like, what's the word?
I don't know, I don't think segregation's the word.
It's not segregation, but I don't want to just be like singled out because of my race. I don't want employers to be like, "Yo, David, like I'm not gonna hire you because of your race." I'm obviously no one's gonna be as straight up as that, but you get what I mean. Like I want to live another day knowing that I can be Asian, I can contribute to society, I can pay my taxes.
But you're working in New York, right, or Los Angeles. These cities aren't really bastions of racism, to be honest, because you're not going to be video editing in Louisiana or Mississippi.
No, I know what you mean. It's just like, but there is still widespread racism, like in these cities.
Oh yeah, of course.
I think especially when you have a president who doesn't endorse, who doesn't endorse different races. He even like acknowledged that he won't like why doesn't he just say, "Oh, I'm not going to support white supremacy." Not support, like demonize white supremacy.
What do you mean? So he refused to condemn it? Is that what
he refused to condemn it, exactly. I'm just like, why don't you just say it? Like, why is it so difficult for you? And there's obviously something behind it, in my opinion, right? So I feel like the faster we get this president out, I think the better. But I don't think Joe Biden is a good replacement.
But as you know, like I disagree with you on some of the presidential things. We can talk about that later.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting to me is that you remember when Boris Johnson got coronavirus, right? Yeah. And then he was in hospital bed, and then his approval rating shot up.
Bro, this man
I mean, it's
literally
crazy.
sat in his freaking office for 9 days straight, and then went to an ICU, nearly died.
But I mean, Trump is going to get a kind of bump in the approval ratings because, you know, think about it from a kind of
But he's
average
so behind
American.
in the polls. He's so behind in the polls.
That's true.
Biden
but the,
is
but,
so
but
behind
the
in the
poll,
polls.
Biden or Trump? Biden.
No, so
Trump.
like Trump is so behind in the polls. My bad.
But you can't trust the polls. You can't trust. I remember 4 years ago when they were saying Hillary Clinton would win with 95% chance, and then election day came, and then the blue wall just crumbled
Mate,
and
I
crumbled.
think it's just gerrymandering. Honestly, it's so like I feel like yes, it's very lucky on Trump's part, and I will agree with that because on the last day, literally everything fell for Trump, and that's how he became president. And honestly, like it was such a shock to everyone when that happened. When Brexit happened, it was a shock.
Exactly.
And then when Trump happened, it was a shock. And we thought Marine Le Pen was going to be French president, but that never happened.
Yeah.
Thank the
She
Lord.
got close though. She got close.
Thank
She
the
got a third of
Lord
the vote.
Jesus Christ. We thought like 3 of the Western nations going to turn autocratic immediately, and we're like, shit.
Well, I wouldn't say autocratic because, like, viewers, first time viewers would know, like, we've got different politics. We like chatting shit though
Oh
a
yeah,
lot.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here's why someone like me, and I don't like Trump. I don't think he's a good example to people. I don't think he's a good leader. But here's why, like, normal people might support him, right? So first of all, abortion, big issue in America. Roe v. Wade, it was a very I think it was 6-3 in the Supreme Court. Like, if Trump wins, he can solidify the Supreme Court for decades. So he's got Justice Neil Gorsuch, excellent justice in my opinion. Kavanaugh, bit controversial because of the sexual assault scandal surrounding him. But Amy Coney Barrett is a solid Catholic, and as soon as she steps on the court, abortion will be over. So that's one reason why a kind of normal, kind of never Trumper Republican might support him this time round. And the second reason is because he's tough on China. Definitely. Because China has never been more unpopular since Mao Zedong.
Look at those tariffs, man. Look at those like, what was it, like 10% tariffs, 15% tariffs?
But the crazy thing is that the Democrats and the Republicans have somehow managed to reach consensus over China. The Hong Kong Human Rights and Democracy Act was passed unanimously in the Senate, and there was only one dissenting vote in the House of Representatives. Crazy that such two diametrically opposed parties can reach the same conclusion on such an important issue.
I feel like, again, I'm not gonna say that because obviously like I'm not gonna say that. What's the word? I'm not gonna go ahead and be like, I feel like okay. The way to phrase this is, I feel like they're trying to find a scapegoat out of it, and the only way they can do that is externally.
True.
And in my opinion, like obviously, I feel like yes, we both support Hong Kong democracy, right?
Yeah, but I mean, low key, the scapegoating is sort of justified, though. No, when you say decades of kind of Chinese steel dumping, kind of.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So like, it's not scapegoating.
But I mean, the thing with America is like yes, there is steel dumping and all that stuff. I just feel like a way that America can stop blaming other countries, and they need to start looking internally.
I think
to
America's way too divided. That's for sure.
Oh, dude, for sure.
Because I think
look at China. Look at China as a country, right? Racially homogenous. Super. Okay. I won't say racially homogenous because all they do is oust people. Like they oust other nations. They oust other kind of what's the word? Like I mean,
look at Xinjiang. It is racist ethno-nationalism.
Yeah, exactly. Look at Xinjiang. Look at the Uyghurs. Look at Hong Kong. Look at.
I mean the Mongolians, right? The Manchurians, the
Uyghurs,
like, everyone, Tibetans.
The Tibetans, exactly. Like they're so-called racially homogenous, but they're not really racially homogenous. They have a lot of races that they just oust out, and like, okay, we don't really care about.
Racism isn't a problem in China, but not in the way that you might think about it. It's not a problem because it's 99% same race. That's why racism doesn't seem to be a problem.
No, thing is, right? It's not considered. It's not so-called racist to them.
It's just normal. It's just their baseline.
I would say this even in Japan and Korea and stuff like, and other countries like other Asian countries. We see like I saw like a video recently that, well, not recently, like maybe 6 months ago, and then there was a husband, like there's a guy who's like Asian, like Chinese, and her wife is black, and they have a half black, half Chinese kid, and the Chinese guy can go into the restaurant. The half Chinese, half black guy can go, a kid can go to the restaurant, but the wife has to stand outside with a dog bowl, begging for food, like outside,
I
as his
think
husband has to pour
this is
out.
an extreme example. Though,
Well,
to be fair,
well, it is an
to be
extreme
fair.
example, but at the same time, it's like, COVID, no foreigners allowed. Like, you know, the COVID is actually like amplified how bad like the kind of systematic racism in Asia is. Like, look at Japan, right? I'm not gonna just pinpoint China because it's an Asian, it's an East Asian issue,
East Asian.
right? You go into like Japan and people will be like, oh no, no foreigners because we think foreigners bring the virus, or like, and even in between these Asian countries, there's still systematic racism, right? In Japan, they really don't like mainland Chinese, like, how'd you call it,
Tourists.
like tourist like attitude, and most
I mean,
most-
I kind of sympathize though, right? I kind of sympathize.
yeah, I agree. I mean, like, most people don't like their attitudes, and honestly, like, there are a lot of good people in mainland China who like
Yeah,
don't
but the
perform-
majority of mainland Chinese are really polite and upstanding, but unfortunately that's not reflected in their
people
tourist
on
behavior.
fucking Weibo or some other like some stupid TikTok, like the Chinese like supplement for like replacement for
It's
TikTok,
like Douyin.
Douyin or
something.
some shit. They go up and is like, they show these kind of like, they kind of amplify kind of mainland Chinese stereotypes in these videos.
Yeah, it's not great. And the thing,
It's not
I
a
don't
good
know if
look.
I don't know if you've experienced the same thing because we're both studying abroad, right?
Yeah.
The mainland Chinese, when they go abroad, like students, and this is a generalization. This is not going to be true for everyone.
Yeah.
But a lot of them, what they do is that they just cluster in their own kind of ethnic group.
Oh, dude, for sure.
They speak
Oh my
Mandarin.
God,
They
yeah.
speak Chinese food. They don't speak to anyone else, and that's why they come out of studying abroad more Chinese than when they started.
Exactly, because they're like, oh, like, I'm being like, oh, I don't really want to mesh with these people. This is all I've known.
Yeah.
Like, all this stuff. I'm not willing to
They're
kind
afraid
of...
to jump out of the comfort zone.
Exactly. I'm not willing to go into that space and be like, oh, I'm going to adapt to, like, American culture, which is what you should do, or, like,
Absolutely.
British culture.
Or English culture.
Yeah, which is what you should do when you go into another country. Just like how when a foreigner comes to our country, they respect our traditions, most of them.
Most of them.
So we should do exactly the same, right? Vice versa. It works the same way.
Because when I first got to England, because I went to boarding school, my first instinct was to just meet as many new people as possible, and that was even more true in university, where everyone from the world
Yeah, but
kind of congregates.
I will
right?
say this is obviously like it's going to be hard as an adjustment, and obviously it's not 100% perfect. Is we're both from Hong Kong, and we've grown up in an international school setting, and we've grown up.
It's easier for us.
This place,
It's easier
which,
for us.
which is so comfortable in my opinion, right? It's
Exactly.
overly comfortable compared to the rest of the
I
world.
mean, we wanted for nothing in our childhoods. Like we've never really experienced poverty or hunger
or racism.
or yeah.
To be honest, no, we have never experienced racism. Like look at the people in Hong Kong, right? Whenever we
Yeah.
out of like, we only really see Indians here, and we only really see white people here.
Exactly. I mean, the first 12 years of my life were completely racism free. It was only after I got to boarding school that I saw racism firsthand, because like both of us, we've always been in the majority. We're used to being the racial majority, and it's only abroad that we're considered minorities. It's
Exactly,
really-
exactly.
But we've got the mindset of a majority race, right? Agree?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And I don't like when we think like that, just because, like, when we go into a different setting, like, we have to kind of change our mindset a little bit.
Exactly.
And that's really difficult. But I will say this, right? There are some parts of, like, culture that I dislike, and I kind of have to bring this up. Like, what part of, like, English culture do you not like?
This is a really kind of nitpicky thing, but I don't like it when they wear shoes indoors. This is a very Hong Kong thing, but I like it.
That's an Asian thing, though.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's an Asian thing, but I really don't like it. And then they just stride in with their shoes, and some of them sleep in bed with their shoes, and I just think that's crazy.
Oh, I know.
That is
However,
disgusting.
I'm sorry. I'm going to shout out, like, my friend Clive. Clive, when
Clive
you were
Graham?
in Graham. When you were in Morocco, you literally put your feet up on the bed as if you didn't know nothing happened. And you know, like, the thing at the end of the hotel rooms, like, they have these, like, really nice, like, things, like, I don't know what they're called, like Like they have these
Like duvets, like
steam
clean
no,
duvets. and
no.
stuff,
They have a
right?
duvet, but they also have
Oh, like the extra sheet
they have
covering
an extra
it,
sheet
with,
covering
like silk
just
and
like
shit,
it's
right?
like
Yeah.
just at the end of the bed, right? You know what that's for? I never knew what that was for until
Exactly.
I was like 16,
Shoes.
and then I met a white person, and they're like, "Yo, that's for when you put your feet up." I'm like, "That's fucking disgusting."
I mean, white people, we just need to do better. Just take off your shoes when you're indoors. Like, it's not that difficult.
Yeah, it isn't that difficult. It shouldn't be that difficult. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's fucking disgusting. And also, you know, like I've been talking to a friend recently, and he was like, "Oh, I when I change my like sheets every 3 weeks." Right?
Yeah.
He
Like
changes
every 3 weeks?
every 3 weeks. Yeah,
I thought you change them like once a week, man. At
Once-
least. 'cause-
once a week. I was talking to
Yeah.
the guy. He was like, "Once a week. I change your sheets once a week." But you know why I only change it 3 times a week? No, sorry, once every 3 weeks.
Once every 3
It's
weeks.
because I go to bed after taking a shower, and I
Oh,
don't.
because Asians shower at night. That's another thing. 'Cause-
Exactly.
Because a lot of Western people, not just white people, but a lot of people.
You come outside and you put all your filth on your bed. like obviously you're gonna have to change sheets every
Yeah,
week.
like, I do understand the appeal of a morning shower. Nothing better than jumping into a cold shower at 6 a.m. right, and then you're pumped for the gym. Like I don't really do gym, as you can tell, but you're pumped for the day, right? But then if you don't shower at night as well, that means all of that sweat and dirt and grime that you've picked up from the street is going straight with you to bed, and I think
Disgusting.
that's not the way to live. That's not the way to live.
Especially if your girlfriend, that's not gonna happen, right? That's not gonna be great. I will say this about American culture that I kind of like dislike. One thing I have to pinpoint one thing. I genuinely think American culture is okay. I quite like it. It's very.
I think it's got a bad rep, but it's underrated. It's underrated.
It's got a bad rep, but it's underrated. But I will say this, right? One thing American culture needs to fix is like the idea of like woke culture.
Jeez.
And I'm going to bring this up because
And
like,
in England as well, actually. In England,
Like-
because America and England are basically.
like, my thing with woke culture is just like, why do you have to like okay? For example, there have been so many of my NYU colleagues who've gone on Instagram and be like, if you support Trump, then you might as well unfollow me, or you might as well not support me, or you might as well not be my friend, or if you support Trump, then you're a supporter of racism and you don't think racism is the bottom line.
Basically, if you like Trump, you're evil.
You're evil.
Fuck off my
Fuck,
social media.
exactly.
I think that's such a shame. That's such a shame.
It is a shame. I mean, you by doing that defeats the purpose of free speech,
Exactly.
right?
And a lot of Americans don't
As-
value free speech because they've never fought for it. Right?
Exactly, they've never fought for it. We have to fight for it here. But the thing is, right? You have to put it into context. Like if you do that, right? It's basically propaganda, in my opinion.
I would say it's even further. It's cultural conditioning. It's brainwashing.
Exactly,
Because-
it's some
because
level of brainwashing.
when someone in some academic or like a committee in a university can control what you can and can't say, I think that's when you're no longer free. Like you are a slave. Like you are a sheep, just doing. All the other sheep go meh, and then you just follow.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's horrific.
Yeah, and I feel like, and you also like, for example, like in my school, it's a very proud LGBT school, which I fully endorse, right? But at the same time, like if someone is Christian and doesn't believe in those values, you're immediately going to demonize them and not be their friend. I mean, that's a bit over the top, isn't it?
I think that's just being intolerant.
Yeah, exactly. Like then you're really being intolerant towards people who don't believe in what you say. Like my thing is like to those people who just think who believe in woke culture, like grow some skin, accept the fact that it's okay. Like for me, it's like grow some skin and
like go out into the real world because
And
there are real problems out there,
Yeah.
like sex slavery with the Yazidis, and you've got actual oppression in Saudi Arabia, in China, but also in East Asia where
that is not really being reported.
yeah, because
But because you're in America, it's the center of attention.
exactly all they see is American issues, and because this nasty Republican said this, and they're really upset, and they forget that people are dying
It's
out there.
it's basically it's a theater. America's a theater. Like when it comes to
Politics is
politics,
fast.
it's a theater.
And I really hate it when some people... Have you heard of Karl Popper's like paradox of tolerance? So Karl Popper said that in order to have a liberal, tolerant society, you have to be intolerant of intolerance. And I agree with that to an extent, because you can't allow actual like communist spies or like the Ku Klux Klan just kind of attacking people, right? I think we
Yeah.
do need to be intolerant of some forms of intolerance. But if you're going to take that to an extreme and say anyone who disagrees with me is also intolerant, then you're just doing the same thing. You're repeating the cycle.
Yeah, I feel like this kind of woke culture is like derived from the idea like, oh, they've had free speech for a while, but some people just can't stand the fact that there's like other ideas out there, like,
Safe space.
or not even safe space. Like for example, like, when we talk about Trump and like his white supremacy, right? It is obviously like it does not resonate with us at all, right? It's fucking bullshit in my opinion, right? But we think it's absolute bullshit. But at the same time, it's like we know it's BS, and we try to demonize people who are like but we shouldn't. My thing is like we shouldn't demonize those people. We should like change their views through education, change their views through like convincing them
Exactly.
through speech.
And you have to treat them as people who you want to help, because like
They're still people,
Exactly.
right? And they've just been born into this condition. Like you're not racist as like, you're not racist as a person when you like come out of your mom's womb. You're racist because of your surroundings.
And also because of your decisions,
Exactly.
decisions. And I would say
But, like
that
what you've seen around you, Adolf Hitler was a racist because he went to like an art school in Austria.
I think a Jew rejected him.
And a
right?
Jew rejected
Yeah,
him, or like
okay.
a bunch of Jews rejected him, and therefore he hates Jews, right?
One of the reasons. One of the
reasons.
Not
I mean,
the only reason.
I mean, he also thinks that like, he wasn't even he wasn't Aryan anyways, and also
he was Austrian.
he was Austrian, and also he was
He's not exactly the Aryan archetype, though, is he? He's not 6'2", muscled, blonde, blue eyes.
exactly right.
He's got a stupid mustache. But I think this problem of intolerance goes both ways, right? Because now, I lean right of centre, so I'm a little bit more conservative than you, right? But I think right-wing people also have a problem. So left-wing people, they go, oh, systemic racism, you're dead naming a person, you're not using the correct pronouns, and it's just all fucking bullshit. I'm so sick of that. But at the same time, you've got conservatives, who I usually support, saying, oh, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to trigger the libs. That is also just a terrible attitude to go into, because whatever happens at the end of the day, you're American, right? You're supposed to be helping each other.
Exactly.
Go through. And instead of saying, oh my god, that kind of...
Here's dead wood. Let's fucking kill. Let's fucking
Because
like exclude this person from our
Ben
conversation.
Shapiro is not going to have problems just skewering some idiot left-wing like university student, right? Because they've been taught so much of that bullshit by the professors, and Ben Shapiro comes in and he smashes them. But that's not the point of politics. It's not to like smash the other side.
It's to work with the other side.
Exactly. But like, this is a bit unrelated, but you know how when we train jiu-jitsu, right? We don't just say, oh, I don't like you, or like, I've got a big ego, so I'm going to smash you. I'm just going to like slam you on the floor and like choke you out. Because nobody learns anything, right? The weaker student, or like the smaller student isn't going to learn good technique, and the bigger guy isn't practicing the technique as well. Instead, if you're bigger or if you're stronger, like when we did rolling on Tuesday, we would help each other.
Like I'm not gonna go like full 100% pelt on you. Like
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. Like I remember from a Joe Rogan podcast that I listened to. It's like it's all about consistency and it's all about like.
That's a Zahabi for
It's
us.
Zahabi, exactly.
Yeah, he's
Exactly.
such a legend.
And you only train at 70% or 80%, right? And to be honest, like, and even when you and acknowledge the fact that you're like 5 weight classes below me,
Yeah.
right? I still like.
But we still need to work with
we're just
technique.
practicing technique because, to be honest, technique at a certain level when I'm fighting someone who's my size, matters more than power.
And you going at 70% and me going at maybe 85 to 90% gives me the chance to practice against a bigger guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And have the time to think without getting smashed. And that's the same for Ben Shapiro, because Ben Shapiro is like the debating equivalent of a heavyweight, right? And he's going against all these idiots. Like, let's be honest, they go to university, but they're idiots. And they say all of this, political correctness.
Sorry about that. The camera stopped just 2 seconds. We'll go back to the topic.
Yeah, where were we at? Political correctness.
Political correctness, exactly.
Yeah, okay. So what I was about to say was that some liberal students, they say all of this political correct, like, rubbish, and then Ben Shapiro comes in and he smashes them. He speaks at, like, 200 miles an hour. They can't get in the words edgeways, and they always look really stupid on YouTube. Have you seen the kind of compilations of them?
Yeah.
Like getting wrecked.
Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson.
Shapiro.
Okay, Shapiro.
No,
I always call him like Shapiro.
Shapiro.
Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson are the two standout figures.
Yeah.
When it comes to like.
I think Peterson less so, because I don't think.
Peterson's more about the feminist debate.
Yeah, I think Shapiro is more kind of, I'm going in and I'm like, his entire mode is hunt and destroy. Whereas, so for example, like, instead of doing that, I would actually like to see him do there's this guy called Andrew Magnabosco or something. So he's an atheist, right? And he's got this YouTube channel. And I think it's called like Street Epistemology or something. So the way he does it is he goes up to Christians and he'll say, oh wow, you're so fucking stupid. Like, he kind of quizzes them on their beliefs. So, so you believe in God? So how do you define God? Oh, he's all-powerful, he's all-knowing. Okay, so how is it possible that he's, like, all-knowing? What makes you think that he's all-powerful? Like, what evidence do you have? And then they go through this really friendly dialogue where they work through each other's differences. And both sides always come out.
You feel like, and you kind of understand this is what politics needs. In terms of, like, a rebrand, a restructure. Instead of just, like...
Of Western politics.
Of Western politics.
Of Western politics. Because there are some political structures where I think you do need to be a bit more direct.
Yeah. For sure.
But in the West, I think that's what you mean.
In the West, like an election is just a fucking shit show. It's a shit show where...
Like CNN and Fox.
It's a theater. It's a theater. Yeah. Like, it's a theater performance, honestly. Like, it's dramatized to be too much. Like, if you look at American media, it's so, like, you're gonna end up hating someone at the end of it. But when you look at, like, Australian media or media from New Zealand, just give you facts about, like, coronavirus, like, straight up, without having any sort of bias. Whereas if you look at CNN or Fox, they obviously have a bias.
And they've got panels of moderators who try to get in their 3-second soundbite and then they're done.
Look. My thing is American media is like it's so, like, which channels is like for which party, right? If you look at Good Morning Britain, I'm not saying Good Morning Britain is like an amazing channel.
No, because it's not.
It's not. But if you look at,
it's a bit better.
But if you look at their debates, it's like they're gonna have two people who support Trump and two people who support Biden, and that comes with some sort of at least it's somewhat, like, even, right?
And not just that, because I don't know if you've watched, Andrew Neil, who hosts the kind of politics section of, I think, the BBC. So he's a conservative, right?
Yeah.
He's a bit like me, definitely right of centre. But he had Shapiro on his interview, and Shapiro just crumbled because Ben Shapiro got really offended, and he's like, "Oh, you're with the radical leftists. Oh, why didn't you read my book?" And then he said something really stupid. He was like, "Oh, I'm more popular than you. Like, nobody's ever heard of you. Therefore, I am more relevant." And Andrew Neil is not a liberal. Like, he's a solid conservative. And that's why Shapiro looked like an absolute idiot when he got on Twitter and he had to apologize and everything. It's just, just do better. Like, challenge your guests, right? Don't just agree with everything that they say. You've got to challenge them, push back a little.
No, for
but
sure,
be respectful. But be respectful.
Yeah. One thing I did like about the moderator in the presidential debate, though, is like, whenever the president wasn't answering their questions, he pushed for pushed for an answer.
I mean, it's so boring though. I didn't watch it. I'll be honest. I watched clips of it, but it was so boring.
But if you look, okay, with Antifa, like the show called Antifa on the left, and pushing for, and the moderator actually was like, oh, so do you demonize it? Do you like?
Are you against it?
Are you against it? Straight up say it, and he won't say it. Right.
No, are you talking about Antifa or the Proud Boys?
So like demonizing white supremacy.
Yeah.
Right. He literally he pushed it really hard. He pushed that agenda really hard. Right. And that's what I liked about this moderator. But overall, the presidential debate was a shit show. Like,
No, it's just boring. I wouldn't even say it was a shit show because shit shows are at least semi-entertaining. It was just
it
boring.
was semi-entertaining.
Really? I don't know. I couldn't make it.
It was
through.
like
It was very
watching.
boring.
It was like watching, like two kids argue on stage.
I think
There
there's
are two big kids. One's like a oversized McDonald's burger, and the other one who's like
orange as well.
an orange McDonald's
and,
burger, and the other one is
like a
like
dried chicken.
dry chicken breast. Exactly. It is so like depressing how America's gone to this stage where they went from Obama, who is not the best president,
No, definitely not the best.
not the best president, but a
Like he was
president-
presentable. Like he sounded like a president. He sounded like a
president
president.
who at least like had some sort of like what was not like, what didn't divide the nation, actually helped with inclusivity, helped get them away from the 2008 financial crisis.
I think that's debatable, right?
I will say that Trump, like Obama has done stuff that like that's why Trump was in power, because like
Obama got complacent, and also the way I actually disagree with you on how he handled the 2008 financial crisis, because basically what he did was that he bailed out all the big banks using taxpayers' money. I would have said, look, all of these business fat cats making billions and billions of US dollars screwing the American worker, they took all of these crazy risks with normal people's pensions, with people's mortgages, and these people deserve to fail. They don't deserve to be bailed out with normal people's money. They should have, Obama should have just let them blow up by
do you know
themselves.
what I have a problem with like I'll get back to it, but like what I like have a problem with regards to like American, like the American mindset with regards to like, or like the Western mindset with regards to rich people. They just demonize rich people as bad people.
No, I mean, I don't
Not
want
all-
to demonize
like
rich
for me,
people.
like
no.
for me, like not all rich people are bad people. Some rich people actually earn their money, so why
Yeah.
can't they keep it?
Like
You know
Elon
what I mean?
Musk,
Like-
yeah,
like-
Elon Musk.
Like Elon Musk
Like,
earned all this
I
money.
think there are different types of rich people, right? You've got the kind of build it by themselves entrepreneur
Yeah.
who create
And then you
goods
have
and services.
and then you have people like Roman Abramovich who how he got his money.
Yeah, but even going away from the extreme example of Russian oligarchs, you've got people who game the system, people who make regulations as complicated as possible, and they benefit by exploiting the loopholes. So you've got so I don't really care if you're rich or if you're poor. What I care about is whether you're a producer or whether you're a parasite. And there are rich parasites and there are poor parasites. There are rich producers and there are poor producers. I don't think income is an issue. What I am concerned about is how you got that income.
Like if you look at like people in Hong Kong and how they got rich, you know why they got rich?
Most of them through hard work.
Most of them do hard work, but some most of the elite 1% of people.
They got lucky. They also bribed the right people.
It's not bribe the right people. I think the reason they're rich is because of the
property. One word. Property.
the country up north.
Oh yeah, the God above.
The God above, exactly.
The God above. They
When
made the
you-
right deals. They bribed the right
When
politicians.
you endorse, let's just say.
Okay, yeah, go for it, mate.
When we endorse China, and I see this with a lot of people, right? Like when they work with China, it's just like
corruption is just part of the social fabric. It's just accepted. It's just
fucking hell.
because whereas if you're from say Hong Kong or even like Britain where you're working in London, like corruption and bribery is a big deal, right? Whereas in China or like less developed countries like India, which is coming up, it's developing really quickly.
Like for me, like I don't know, like there's a massive dilemma in Hong Kong at least with like, oh, if you want to work with China, like you have to get a clean portfolio.
Yeah.
Don't talk shit about China. We're obviously talking shit about China right
Yeah.
now, which will not help.
Yeah, we're gonna get blacklisted.
We're gonna get blacklisted, mate.
No more films for David in China.
Yeah, not happening. But I feel like one thing that my dad just told me is like where is your kind of not allegiance, but where's your
bottom line? Where's your
where's
daicing?
your-
In Chinese we call it daicing.
yeah.
Like
where's
bottom
your
line.
bottom line? Like where's your like? Do you have any kind of
Basic morality.
basic morality in you, where you understand like, oh, like you're not just gonna fight for money. Like money's not going to be the sole reason.
Like, money's very. Don't get us wrong. Like, money is very, very important, and you should
yeah.
absolutely be trying to make as much of it as possible up to a point. But if you're relying on slave labor to like make T-shirts, then
and Uyghurs to get lower pay than the average Chinese worker,
then yeah,
and all these different
you
things.
need to ask yourself: is it worth it? Like,
yeah.
Is that extra zero on my bank account? Is that going to make me happier?
Is it living in a mansion in Hong Kong and in whatever, like in on the peak, worth it?
And there's
living in,
one
like, somewhere in
saying which
Canton, you know?
a lot of people, especially in the older generation, that which they say, which really pisses me off. They're like, oh, and in Chinese it's like, oh, 自由為唔飽. So it's like, freedom does not feed you, freedom does not give you rice, it does not give you food. That's true. But at the same time you can say, oh, then we might as well be animals living on the farm, like pigs. Like, they get all they can eat, and then they get slaughtered.
Here's an analogy I make, right? You know, in World War II, when Nazi Germany was like at the peak of its powers and everything. If Britain was like, oh, like whatever, I don't give a shit anymore. Like, let's just like buy into the Nazi, like, cause they have a fuck ton of money. We're never gonna win this war. Let's just fucking give up on the whole notion.
It's just rational to surrender. It's rational.
Yeah. Let's just give up on the notion of like wanting to fight. And fuck our beliefs and fuck our morality.
Oh yeah, beliefs won't feed us, right?
Exactly. Beliefs won't feed us. We're stuck at home, London's constantly being bombed right now. We have to send our children all the way to like.
I can't be asked to like work or fight.
Yeah,
so,
we were all on rations. Like, we can't eat any good food. Like, beef's on like limited supply. Every single one of our supplies.
Spam, all that spam.
Every one of our supplies from America is being bombed by U-boats. Like. Let's fuck it. Let's not give a fuck about like our morality, our basic.
Let's just work with the Germans and drink champagne and eat steak, and things will be so good. And there were people in France and Britain and all these other countries who did do that.
But what is the point of that? What is the point of doing that? Right? You stand up, like, as people. You stand up for yourself.
But to be fair to some of them, I think it's quite hard to talk about ideals and freedom when it's like, oh, my family is actually going to starve. Yeah. Or like, my family is actually going to like get bombed by these people and I have to work with them. And I think that's tougher for them. But the rich industrialists who kind of worked with Nazi Germany, that I don't think that's justifiable.
Yeah, they're just greedy, hungry Mongols.
And people always say, it really pisses me off when people say, oh my god, how did the Holocaust happen? Like, never again. And then they're letting the exact same thing happening today. And they can't even be asked to know about it. Like, why did... when they say, oh, why did the Holocaust happen? Like, my answer, if I'm trying to be rude, is because of people like you. Right? Because you're too ignorant and you're too complacent to care about other people. And by the time you know about it, like, they're fucked. Like, the Uyghur Muslims, 1 to 3 million people in concentration camps.
Look, I see this same situation in football. Like I'm an Arsenal fan.
I really hate. I'm not a big football fan, but I hate Arsenal. I think you lot are wankers, to be honest.
But you're a twat, mate.
Anyways,
well, there's a football player who's called like Mesut Ozil, and he's half German, half Turkish.
Oh, is he the football player who spoke out against
China? He spoke out against China, and now his coach is dropping him. And he hasn't played since March. Right, and he's on $350,000 a week, like pounds a week. He's one of our highest paid players, and he doesn't. And
is he good? Is he good on the pitch?
He's good. He's arguably good. He goes missing in games sometimes, but like he's a very good player. And for some reason, I don't know why he's like not playing. Like, I don't know what like the coach, like Mikel Arteta, doesn't see in him, but. That's besides the point. And some people are actually pointing to the fact that this is an institutional problem from higher up. Like, and even China was like, if Ozil plays, that's not going to be shown on TV.
Here's the thing, right? People always blame the systems, the man, the institutions, the corporations. Institutions don't work unless the people below obey the top. If you want to resist, you can. Like, people who blame the system, who say, oh, the system's against me. The world's against me. They're not going to achieve anything in life. They're not actually going to make a difference. You have to be willing to take a stand. And we see the same thing happening, not just in football, but in basketball with LeBron James, right? Because LeBron. Is it LeBron?
It's not LeBron. It's the Houston Rockets GM Daryl Morey.
No, but I think LeBron, like, he does all this
But
Black Lives Matter
I know,
stuff.
but he's never said anything about
Look, but
leaders.
but he said Daryl Morey should re-educate himself.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's crazy talk, because LeBron James, who is seemingly this paragon
They shut down an entire summer event
of
just-
NBA.
of NBA in China just because of what he said.
And LeBron James, like, he does all this stuff about he's building schools for children and Black Lives Matter, and he seems like a really nice, genuine guy. And then you realize he's only supporting all of this because it comes at no personal cost. The moment is kind of like, well, he's got special shoes, right? What are they called?
Just they call it LeBrons or something.
Yeah, like his special shoes. As soon as that gets stopped in China and the sponsorship dries up, immediately.
And Nike doesn't support him anymore.
Exactly.
It affects his factories and the NBA.
And then LeBron James just says, "Oh, this guy who spoke out
This
for
affects my
democracy."
wage packet, so let's not do that.
And he's so rich as well, because LeBron, he doesn't need extra money, right? But he goes out and he says, "Oh, this guy who, like, you spoke out in favor of democracy, you need to re-educate yourself because you're fucking
And
up
look,
my profits."
I will say this, right? I love LeBron as a player. Like,
Oh, great player, really dynamic.
I love him for who he is as a person. I love the fact that he stands up for Black Lives Matter, and I am a supporter of Black Lives Matter. It's just like, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, you care about Black Lives Matter, but what about everyone else? Like, you're a global superstar. You're not just an American
I think he
superstar.
will stop caring as soon as it hits his wallet.
His
And that's why I say he's a hypocrite.
to a certain extent, I would agree with you on that.
I mean, we are all hypocrites to a certain extent. Like, we are all hypocrite. We all exhibit hypocritical behavior, but that's just so egregious. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about it. It's just LeBron is a bit like he's a very good face for the NBA. He represents hard work. He represents coming from rags
work
to riches,
ethic and talent.
rags to riches, all of that. But one thing we will criticize him for is, and he's a great person, by the way.
I mean,
We can't say anything, but he's like a superstar. Like he's like way above us at this moment.
I don't really care about superstar status because I don't follow basketball that much. I know he's a good player. I like watching him play, but I honestly don't really care. I mean, I think he's a hypocrite. I mean, there's a spectrum of opinions, right? And we fall on different.
Yeah,
parts
for
of the
sure, for
spectrum.
sure. And you know that there's only like push and pull and you know.
Yeah, but
I feel like people who really care about like, and ultimately we can conclude on this because we're running out of time.
yeah,
Like we can say that people who care about their communities more, or like are more wary of their own communities, will support them more if it affects them personally, right? Like we care about Hong Kong because it affects us personally, but do we really like give as much of a shit
About
it's
Syria,
in
for
Syria
example.
or what's happening in Colombia and Venezuela?
I mean, I'll raise up my hand and say
like, yo,
I'm
I
not as empathetic as I should be.
exactly.
Right, I'm one of those people,
Right,
and I admit it.
And that's the fact of the matter. We only care about stuff that directly impacts us and doesn't affect like you know other communities that are affected in the same way.
And that's the way our brains are wired, because we need to protect the tribe, and that's
Yeah,
how it.
and-
But
and-
I guess what we're trying to say is that there are just some basic principles which you do need to stick up for.
Yeah,
I think.
and that's ultimately extremely debatable. I mean, we can talk about this another time.
Mm.
So, yeah, thanks for listening, guys. It's been a really nice talk for the first episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys like it, like this episode, the first episode of the podcast, give it a like and give the channel a subscribe. And so yeah, peace.